Welcome back to the In the Deep End podcast. I am Cosmic.
I'm Shanda. And today, you guys, we're going to talk about, everybody's talking about if Diddy's kids should be in the courtroom or not. It was said that the girls, the twins, had to leave the courtroom. Who knows why, but we can only imagine. So, Cosmic, what do you think about that? Do you think Diddy's kids should be in the courtroom, both boys and girls?
So, I personally think that it is good for, I don't want to say good. I think that it's important for them to be there at the trial. Why I feel that way, I can't really explain well, other than I feel like it clears up a lot of questions that they may have or have later on, and it's good for them to know who their dad was and is, and hopefully that they have someone around them to guide them, or because it can also backfire. It can also backfire in who they find themselves in relationships with.
What can backfire? What do you mean?
Sitting through this trial, hearing how he's treated, and not only women, I guess, but men as well, and I forget what it's called, but there's a psychological suggestion that daughters often look for men who remind them of their father and vice versa for sons with mothers.
Yes.
So, and I know that doesn't fit the mold for everybody, but it does for most people. So that's where it could backfire, in a sense of these, or accepting, okay, say she accepts getting jumped on, but she's only getting slapped into a wall every now and then. It's not half as bad as it's not a quarter of as bad as what her dad was doing. So
you mean as the daughters get older, they may accept certain things?
Even now,
what you're saying?
Right? Even now at 18.
And you think that would be in direct relation to what they now know their dad was doing, so therefore that kind of makes it okay or acceptable?
What do you mean when you say that? Repeat that.
So are you saying that by the girls knowing that this is what their dad did, that some of those things are acceptable in a relationship? You mentioned getting jumped on. You mentioned getting slapped.
This may be something that subconsciously is imprinted on their psyche, and they might not realize it while it's happening. But I don't know. I'm on the fence about it, but there is a part of me that says I think it's important that they're there and that they're getting a 360 view of who their dad was.
And how do you feel about the sons being there?
I think all the kids should be there if they're of age. So if they're of age, then I think that it's important for them to be there.
I completely disagree. I do not think the kids should be in the courtroom hearing all of these vile details about what their father was into.
Right.
However, do I think that his kids had some kind of inclination of what was going on
already?
Of course they did.
Right.
But to hear these horrific details is another thing. For example, they said that in the courtroom yesterday, Diddy would instruct the sex worker to ejaculate in some way, in some place. And then after the encounter with that worker, they would go into the room, meaning Cassie and Diddy, and Diddy would instruct Cassie to put the ejaculation material on his nipples.
Not the ejaculation material.
So that is like, can you imagine hearing that about your dad?
But it's
Yes, it is what happens, but I feel that a child should see their mother or father in a certain light. And they have no business being privy to their intimate details. You know, what mother or what father would be okay with their kids knowing what they do in the bedroom, whether it be current, past, or in the future. Nobody wants to share that with their kids.
But I think that the problem with that is, or I guess the difference with that is, now is that one, Diddy's a public figure. Mm-hmm. So your whole life, details about your life that you usually, a normal, I guess, set of parents wouldn't have shared, or anything about with their kids is already out there. So there's already a certain level of exposure that they are probably used to, considering the lifestyle that they live.
I agree with that to a certain
Secondly,
degree. Mm-hmm.
Diddy, if Diddy was concerned about all of that, he wouldn't have been doing all that he's been doing in the first place. I think that it is a disservice to look at your parents in this false light that's not true, and that is a bad habit. And what that will do is you'll look at yourself in false lights, you'll look at your friends in false lights, and you'll look at your romantic partners in false lights, and that can breed a whole shitstorm of different problems. As ugly as things may be, I think that it's important to look at ugly truths, and they're not easy to deal with or anything, but I think it's an important practice. I think that idolizing or idealizing anybody is a bad habit.
I don't necessarily look at it as idolizing. I look at it as you have no business knowing the intimate details of your parents' sex life. It has nothing to do with idealizing the figure. It's just that in fact, I don't want to know my parents' intimate details. No, thank you.
And they shouldn't. But it's not. It's one thing if they're like creeping on some home videos that their dad made, or something weird like that. But that's not the case. Your dad's in trouble for committing X crimes.
Well, yes.
So it's not. I mean, it depends on how you're looking at it. I'm not looking at it in a perverted way. I'm looking at it from more of a, I guess, what do I want to say? Not a legal way, but like a little bit more of a simple way than, they're hearing about his sex life, when really it's not about that you are, but I think it's more about seeing who your dad is, and that's a monster in reality, and really really sick.
Okay, well, keep in mind, I believe they are well aware that their father is a monster, because that video of him kicking Cassie in the hotel hallway and throwing things at her, all of those things is public knowledge. Everybody has seen it, so they know. And then keep in mind, they live with the man, so I'm sure they know enough to know who he is. They do not need to be sitting in the courtroom hearing these vile, disgusting details. They just
Right.
don't. That has no value, in my opinion. They know who their dad is without having to hear all of those details.
Right.
Now, is it beneficial to just say the boys, for example, to know that you can't do this shit and not get in trouble? You cannot mistreat people in this manner and not get in trouble. There
Right.
is some value in that regard, but as far as everything else, I absolutely would rail against them being in the courtroom. Yeah,
Right.
yes, they're going to read things online. Yes, they're going to hear things, but to actually hear those things being said in the presence of your father, your grandmother, and everybody else, is just extremely uncomfortable, I would imagine, and extremely disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
That's just my take on it. And also, the girls, I'm sure it kind of plays some mental gymnastics with them as well, because they love their father, and that is who they've lived with all this time since their mother passed away. So you're right, by way of, girls want someone just like dad. So is it going to lead them to a volatile relationship, because it's what they've, not only what they've seen, but now these details are going to be just like engraved into their mind in photographs, details. It's just horrific and horrendous.
Well, that's why I said it could always backfire.
Yeah.
And I'm really on the fence about it. But there is a part of me that says that there's something in them being there, but I can't put my finger on what that would be.
Well, again, so
Outside of what I shared.
yeah. So anyhow, you guys, as the trial's going on, we'll hear more and more each day. So you guys drop down in the comments and let us know. Do you think the kids should be in the courtroom? If not, why not? And if you do, why do you think that as well? Do you have anything else?
That'll be all I'd have to say on the matter.
All right, you guys. Thanks for watching.
Bye.
Bye.